Luxury bags carefully handcrafted in China. The viral TikToks from Chinese factory workers, the internet is now in a frenzy over claims that some of the most iconic designer bags are actually born in the East.
Got a lot of requests, do Hermes next. And that's why we're here in the Highland Park Mall.
Made in China. Or maybe made in Chile. Oh yeah, that should be a thing, by the way.
What if I told you that the $20,000 Hermes bag influencer's flash on Instagram wasn't handcrafted in a charming Parisian workshop, but rolled off the same Chinese assembly lines that pump out 300 fakes? Sounds impossible, right? That's what Hermes wanted you to believe. But the truth just exploded. And now, the entire luxury world is in meltdown mode. Hermes, the gold standard of exclusivity and craftsmanship, has been caught outsourcing their prized creations to the very factories that mass-produce knockoffs. The Birkin, the Kelly, bags that celebrities parade like sacred treasures, were made right alongside counterfeits, thousands of miles from the storied ateliers of France. And now, furious customers are demanding their money back. After shelling out tens of thousands for what they believed was European artistry, buyers are flooding Hermes stores and filing lawsuits, furious that they were sold a lie with a 5-figure price tag. Some boutiques have even been forced to shut their doors temporarily to avoid protests and media chaos. Viral TikToks, insider leaks, legal firestorms, the once impenetrable luxury empire is being ripped apart thread by thread. And the deeper you dig, the uglier it gets. Because this scandal doesn't stop at Hermes. Prada, Chanel, Louis Vuitton. They're all stitched into the same dirty little secret. This isn't just the fall of one brand, it's the unraveling of the entire luxury illusion. Stay tuned, because what we're about to uncover will change the way you see the luxury world forever.
So Hermes has put out a response to China, and they have like a video in a factory sort of showing people trying to show that they're actually the ones who are making the bags in a factory somewhere in France.
She put the finishing touches on a Kelly, the most difficult bag to build. It starts with 30 distinct cuts of leather and can take 20 hours to complete, 4 hours for just the handle. There are no manuals or cheat sheets. Artisans rely on their training and muscle memory to make every bag.
For decades, Hermes didn't just sell handbags, they sold a fantasy. You pictured a master artisan in a sunlit French studio, hand-stitching buttery leather while sipping espresso and listening to soft jazz. A bag born from tradition, precision, and soul. But the brutal truth? That fantasy was a lie. Up to 80% of Hermes' so-called iconic bags, the Birkins, the Kellys, the crown jewels of fashion, are churned out in Shandong, China. Not just assembled, manufactured from scratch. Every step, the cutting, the threading, the stitching, the leather work. And then, Hermes ships the nearly finished bag to France, snaps on a clasp, stamps it made in France, and slaps on a $20,000 price tag. It's not illegal, but it's pure deception at its finest. And when Chinese factories finally leaked the receipts, the house of luxury that Hermes built started collapsing fast.
Hermes will charge you 38,000 USD for one bag. That's because more than 90% of the price is paid for its logo. But if you do not care about the logo, you just want the same quality, same material.
This wasn't just some shady rumor floating on Reddit. This was cold, hard evidence, and it came straight from the factories themselves. Chinese manufacturers who had been quietly building authentic Hermes bags for years finally broke their silence. They weren't bootlegging fakes, they were the real deal, and they were sick of being erased while Hermes soaked up all the glory. It didn't take long for TikTok sleuths to connect the dots. Viral clips showed the same stitching, the same hardware techniques, the same leather processes, straight from anonymous workshops that Hermes never dared to mention. The brand panicked. They scrambled to release glossy PR videos showing French workers smiling behind sewing machines. But it was too late. The receipts were already public, and furious customers were asking the only question that mattered. If these bags are made in China, why are we paying $20,000 for them? And just when Hermes thought the storm might blow over, Tanner Leatherstein stepped in and lit the entire luxury world on fire. Tanner isn't just some TikTok entertainer, he's a trained leather craftsman, a ruthless whistleblower, and a nightmare for every major designer label. He made his name doing the unthinkable, slicing open luxury handbags, live on camera, and showing the world the cheap secrets hiding inside. He exposed Chanel for ditching real gold for plastic-coated trash. he tore into Louis Vuitton's luxury stitching that couldn't survive a year of use. And when he cracked open a $38,000 Hermes Birkin, what he found was jaw-dropping. The real cost to make that exclusive bag? Around $600, including the high-end leather and hardware, but no gold, no precious materials, just elite marketing smoke and mirrors. Tanner ripped apart dozens of so-called luxury bags. His verdict? Most were overpriced disappointments wrapped in branding. And the ugly truth Hermes didn't want you to hear? You're not buying craftsmanship. You're buying a fantasy.
I have spent over $100,000 of my own money dissecting luxury bags, cutting them open, analyzing every stitch, every layer. Why? Because I had to know what made those bags so expensive.
Faced with a raging PR nightmare, Hermes didn't apologize. They didn't even blink. Instead, they went to war. They unleashed lawsuits against the Chinese factories that dared to speak out, accusing them of defamation, theft, and breaching intellectual property. But here's the twist. Those factories? They weren't criminals. They weren't selling knockoffs. They were legitimately contracted by Hermes to manufacture the real bags. Now, with the heat turned up, Hermes pretended they didn't even know them, disowning their own supply chain like dirty laundry. And guess what? Hermes isn't alone. Prada, Chanel, Louis Vuitton, they've all been playing the same game. Build 98% of a bag in China, sew a button on in Europe, and slap on a Made in Italy or Made in France tag like it's gospel. It's not craftsmanship, it's corporate illusion. And the only reason Hermes is suing now? Because they got caught. Let's talk cold, hard numbers. In 2024, Hermes pulled in a jaw-dropping $15.2 billion. But ask yourself, if it really takes 2 days to handcraft a Birkin the old-fashioned way, how many skilled French artisans would they need to meet global demand? Thousands, tens of thousands. And spoiler alert, those artisans don't exist, at least not in France. The real workers? They're in factories across China, like Satan Handbag in Guangdong province, which quietly produces 80% of the world's luxury bags. Hermes, Prada, even mid-tier designer labels. One factory insider even leaked that factory extras, bags identical to $25,000 Hermes Birkins but without logo, were sold off for a few $100 on the side. The difference? Not the leather, not the stitching, just a tag, a stamp, a $20,000 illusion.
My house is on fire. I would take this one out of all of them.
Why didn't the world know sooner? Because the rich and famous were part of the con. When Cardi B flashes her $60,000 Birkin or Kylie Jenner shows off her designer purse vault, no one questions it. We just want a piece of it.
Birkin, am I right? Oh, yeah. I couldn't even be mad at her because when I asked her, I was like, I wanted to see if she was gonna tell me the truth. I was like, Coach, did you draw mommy's purse?
Literally spent $60,000 on this purse. Look what my daughter did to my purse.
Here's the dirty secret. Most celebrities don't even buy these bags. Brands send them out for free. Strategic placement, free marketing, influencers flood your feed with unboxings. Half the time, they're opening PR drops or even dupes. They tag the real brand anyway because the illusion sells. It's not luxury, it's manipulation. You're not admiring craftsmanship, you're swallowing a marketing campaign dressed up as aspiration. And Hermes didn't stop at the celebrity trap. They built an entire cult. You can't just stroll into a store and buy a Birkin. You have to prove yourself first. Spend thousands on scarves, wallets, belts. Build your relationship with the store. Then, maybe, you'll be allowed to spend even more for the privilege of owning a Birkin. It's not about the bag. It's about the feeling of being chosen. A masterclass in psychological manipulation. But now, the magic spell is breaking. With Hermes exposed, the resale market is tanking. Prices are slipping, collectors are panicking, resellers are sweating bullets. Because if the exclusivity is fake and the craftsmanship is questionable, then what's left to justify a $30,000 price tag? Nothing. Hermes isn't just scrambling behind closed doors. They've gone full-on corporate warfare. What began as quiet denials has exploded into a legal battlefield. Lawsuits are piling up, not against a few rogue factories, but a growing roster of Chinese manufacturers. Hermes is now desperately trying to muzzle whistleblowers by accusing them of defamation and intellectual property theft. But here's what they won't admit. These factories weren't some rogue operations. They were official partners, fulfilling Hermes-approved orders, with signed contracts to prove it. Now, Hermès is acting like they've never even heard of these partners. It's like catching someone cheating with video proof, and they still say, "That's not me." They've shifted the fight into courtrooms, hoping lawsuits can do what PR Spin couldn't. Their goal? Shut down the truth before it spreads any further. But it's already too late. The leaks are viral. TikToks are clocking millions of views. Fashion insiders, once silent, are spilling the secrets they once swore to protect. The worst timing imaginable? Absolutely. These lawsuits hit just as global fashion is under a brutal spotlight. After US crackdowns on Chinese imports and heightened scrutiny over labor practices, brands everywhere were forced to open their books. Consumers began asking uncomfortable questions. Where are your goods really made? Who is really making them? And for Hermès, the answers were devastating, exposing them elbow deep in the outsourcing game. And Hermès isn't alone. If the illusion crumbles for one, the whole luxury industry risks collapse. Louis Vuitton, Prada, Gucci, brands that sell the fantasy of European craftsmanship while quietly relying on the same outsourced factories and the same cheap labor. That Made in Italy tag, it might have been slapped onto a bag assembled in China, stitched in 5 minutes flat. One little lie, thousands in profit, millions deceived. Now, Hermès is bracing for a storm they might not survive, because this isn't just another scandal, it's a betrayal. And once trust is broken, luxury falls apart. No amount of celebrity endorsements, gold-plated buckles, or glossy Vogue covers can undo that. The genie's out of the bottle, and no court, no lawsuit, no PR campaign can shove it back inside. Now the mask is off. That $1,000 bag, that prestige brand, the entire luxury dream, it was never about artisanship, it was about manipulation, a meticulously crafted fantasy fed to us by celebrities, influencers, and fashion gatekeepers who cashed in to keep the illusion alive. They told us what was valuable, and we believed every word. But now, the cracks are spreading, and the truth isn't just ugly, it's humiliating. Picture this. The $20,000 Hermès Birkin, it shares factory walls, and sometimes even workers, with a $400 knockoff. The same machines, the same stitching, the same materials, different logo, different fairy tale. We've been trained to think one is luxury and the other is cheap, but peel away the branding and what's left? A leather bag that cost $600 to make, pumped up by marketing into a $20,000 dream. Here's the real kicker. The illusion still holds. Despite everything, consumers keep lining up, building purchase histories, and playing the endless waiting list game, all just for a chance to be sold to. They still buy the fantasy because the industry needs them to. Because if the illusion shatters, so does the 1,000% profit margin. Without the markup, these brands aren't icons. They're just middlemen with good lighting. But tides are shifting. We're living in an age where one viral TikTok, one leaked video, one whistleblower can wreck a century-old empire overnight. Hermès is throwing lawsuits like grenades, trying to control the narrative. But the narrative isn't theirs anymore. The crowd is waking up. The curtains are being torn down. And what's behind them? A lot of marketing spin. And very little magic. So next time you see a $25,000 bag made in France, stop and ask yourself, are you really buying craftsmanship or just paying for a logo and a lie? Hit that like button if you've ever questioned the hype. Subscribe for more deep dives into the real world of luxury. And tell us in the comments, if luxury is just a story, who's really getting played?